I'd like to call the planning board meeting of Tuesday, September 13th, 2022 to order at 7:09 PM. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first order of business is, we're going to take this one out of order. The Ricketts Pond Business Park Lot 3 has requested a continuance. Is that correct, Mr. Bott?
That's what I understand, yes.
All right, and I believe we can put them on our next meeting?
Yes, essentially, most of the work I think is done on this, and many of the issues addressed in lots 1 and lot 2. So, yes, I think we are ready for them to be on 9/27.
All right, and this is a public hearing, so we will need a motion to continue to the Ricketts Pond Bridgestone Development, Inc. Special Permit, Lot Number 3, Ricketts Pond Business Park, to September 27th, I believe,
That's correct.
at 7 PM. So moved.
I will second.
Motion made by Mr. Gatsky, seconded by Ms. Sordillo. Thank you very much. Right. Our first order of business this evening is approval not required plan. The purpose of this plan is a parcel exchange as shown on the plan, 64 Wareham Street.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Joe Webby, who prepared the plan, has another meeting tonight and asked if I would walk the board through it. It is a fairly straight-up parcel swap. Wareham Street is a public way. The property fronts on a public way, so it is properly before the board as an A&R plan. In this case, the proposal is to take parcel A, 7,394 feet, and swap it with parcel B, 11,569 square feet. As you can see in parcel B, the existing paved driveway is there, so that'll put the existing paved driveway on the parcel itself. Plan is properly prepared on a way with frontage, and none of the lots become non-conforming by the addition or deletion of any of the parcels.
So we're going to exchange parcel A for parcel B, is that what I'm?
Correct. So parcel A, you see the former lot line here, right above my giant black arrow.
Okay.
So the former lot line comes out here and runs along the back. You see it clips part of a shed. There's a garden in parcel A, so that is going to be conveyed to the parcel in the rear. And then parcel B, there's that original part from that lot line, former lot line. So that line will move from there out to here.
Now it says the square footage of parcel B is 11,569 square feet?
That's correct. That's what it says.
Oh, that's, okay.
Yeah, so parcel 127-1404, that's 50,000 square feet.
So are we removing parcel A, or are we adding
Yeah.
parcel A to parcel B?
No, parcel A gets sliced off to give to somebody else. Parcel B comes into lot 14-0 on map 127.
Okay, along the former lot line.
Correct.
Okay, yes, I see. All right, any questions or concerns from the board?
this the same? Tom, is this the same group that was, doing the business? That came before us, just a little,
No, this is 64 Wareham Street. That was 17, I believe.
oh,
So it
Down
looks,
the street.
just looks so much like the same layout.
Well, you see one parcel, you've seen them all if you've been at this long enough, but that's not really true, by the way. They all look different. Yeah, if we look at the locust map here in the top left, you'll see that David Lane is north of it, Deer Hill Lane is south of it on Wareham Street.
it appears it's gonna make the original parcel more conforming or bring it into conformance. Any further questions? The board will accept a motion in regards to this A and R.
I'll make said motion
To approve,
to approve.
motion made by Ms. Sordillo,
I'll second it.
seconded by Mr. Robinson. Any discussion by the board?
So these are, we're just dealing with, we're not splitting up lots, right? We're
No.
not creating lots, we're just creating parcels.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct. No new lots are being created, just adding to the existing lot and taking away from another lot. Both of which, and that parcel A, or that section of parcel B will not create any nonconformities from the contributing lot.
it appears that it will bring parcel ID 127.14.0R into compliance.
And it looks like it already was in compliance, it had 170 feet of frontage.
Well, it says it had, well, no, it was square footage wise, 50,766. All right, is the 50,766 the new number or the original number?
That says new area.
Okay. So it's,
And the nice thing about this is it puts the existing paved driveway on their parcel rather than the next door neighbor.
right, so it's not entirely in compliance, but we're not creating a greater
No,
imbalance.
correct. So did he have a motion and a second?
Any further discussion?
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay, no, I was waiting in case you had any more questions. Mr. Dion?
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sordillo says aye.
Thank you very much. All right. Our next order of business is on the application of AD Makepeace Company, Beals and Thomas. This is a public hearing.
Oh.
Yes. On the application of AD Makepeace Company, Beals and Thomas, requesting a definitive subdivision approval pursuant to the Carver subdivision control bylaw for property located at off Wareham Street, Harwich Road subdivision, assessors map 134, lots 4-1, 4-2B, and 4-3 in Carver, Mass. In a residential agricultural district, the applicant wishes to construct a 370 linear foot roadway and cul-de-sac to support a 2-lot conventional subdivision. Good evening. This was formerly known as the Fox Run. You received a letter from Mr. Glines, Fussin O'Neill engineer in charge of the project. Yes.
Would you like us to speak?
Yeah.
Yes,
wait.
please. No,
Yeah.
please identify yourself.
Sure, yep. So Attorney Rob D'Ambrosio at D'Ambrosio Law in Plymouth, and I've got with me Sarah Stearns of Beal and Thomas, the civil engineer for this project. We represent AD Makepeace, and I think, thanks everyone for the time tonight. I think as Mr. Chairman Shea was just kind of recapping things briefly, you know, we've been at this for some time now. You know, we're here tonight seeking approval of our definitive subdivision plan. We've been through 2 rounds of Fussin O'Neill review. Beals and Thomas has responded twice now to those comments with my feedback. And, you know, as you can see in Fussin O'Neill's most recent letter dated August 24th, they opine that the applicant, Makepeace, has satisfactorily addressed their comments. There were a handful of recommendations regarding waiver requests and conditions that were furnished by Fussin O'Neill. We don't take issue with any of those, and we're here to answer your questions and seek your approval. Thank you.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, I can run through the comments in Fussin O'Neill's letter and where we're at with that, if you'd like.
Right. I only have August 24th, general comments.
August 24th is that final review letter.
Okay, I don't have the response to it.
Yeah, there was a so there was a July 1st letter, and then Beals and Thomas responded to that, and then Fussin O'Neill issued another letter on July, on August 8th. Or no, I'm sorry. Bottom line is we haven't responded to the most recent one because it doesn't really call for a response. It says that you're satisfied with the comments, and then there's a series of recommendations, so we did not issue a response. We're here at your pleasure.
Mr. Broad, I don't have their response to these comments.
Well, I think we just heard them from the attorney. So if I may just go through the points in Andy's August 24th letter and just tell you where we're at as far as those things go.
Great.
Right, so under general comment number 1, if not done already, recommend the town planner inform the planning board if there are any prior approval or conditions regarding subject property or earth removal committee. I checked with the select board's office. There have been no earth removal applications submitted for this per the select board office. Item number 2, if not already done, F&O recommends the town planner provide the planning board with a copy of the INRAD approved by the Conservation Commission May 23rd, 2022. We have both the copy of the INRAD and the recorded INRAD that was submitted to me by the conservation agent, Gary Flannery. They are all set there. Flipping to page 2, the back side, under subdivision regulations, section 6335, application request a waiver using NAVID D88 vertical datum. This is a waiver that's been recommended by Fussin O'Neill because frankly everybody's using that and our regulations are just out of date and we should fix those. So that is a fairly housekeeping waiver. Number 2 under rules and regulations, section 6334, Fussin O'Neill includes a condition to reiterate the Board of Health has approved the use of the former test pits. We have an email from Kevin Forge, 7/28/22 email confirming that those test pits are fine from the Board of Health's perspective for their use. Number 3, section 6334, applicant requests a waiver providing the plan for a scale of 1 to 40. Fussin O'Neill recommends approval of that waiver as the land plan and profile plan is approved at a scale of 1 to 40. Some of the other sheets are larger than that because there's just very large areas that you're dealing with there. So once again, a fairly pro forma waiver for that. Number 4, section 7.4.12J I. Fuss and Owner recommends that a condition be set to include stakes be marked on the boundary area to be cleared, and that the cleared limits are inspected by the town prior to clearing. I think I've heard the attorney just say they had no problem with that condition, so we would, in the decision, have the property stake confirm the area to be cleared prior to those conditions, prior to the area being cleared. And that's the area of the roadway that we're talking about, because that's the area of the subdivision plan. Number 5, it should be noted, section 7.4.1.2K, it should be noted that no site preparation, tree cutting, felling, grading, or other work done in anticipation of subdivision approval will be performed prior to the definitive plan approval. I think we did a site visit there just recently. There wasn't any work being done there. I think this, and Andy can correct me if I'm wrong, anticipates that sometimes folks try to get a jump start on building a roadway. You are allowed to cut down trees, you are allowed to move dirt, but you're not allowed to build a road prior to subdivision approval, and there is no indication that any of that is taking place on site. Number 6, section 7.73, Fuss and Owner recommends a condition be added to reiterate the intent to maintain public access to the existing path. It's recommended the planning board, applicant, and town planner discuss the language of this condition to avoid excessive restriction in future development. So the sheet I've got on the screen in front of you shows the subdivision roadway. And if you follow my cursor down here to the bottom, you'll see the existing pathway. So at one point, the roads moved a couple times and it was closer to the existing cart path. The area is not public, so as far as public access, I don't think that's necessarily what we meant there, but maintaining that access, because when you've got a cart path, someone may have a right to that cart path. It was given way back in the colonial era, so you never want to impede a cart path. You never want to put a building on top of it. So in this case, nothing's impeding the cart path, nothing's impeding the ability for anybody who may have a right there. But there's been no discussion of public access to the site. There's no public open space on the site. So I think the contention is just to maintain access. And Andy can correct me if I'm wrong, but it is maintained by the distance of the new roadway to be built, Harwich Road, and the existing pathway we see down here. And then lastly, under zoning bylaws, the 3 proposed lots will be located in a residential district and are proposed to conform with the applicable dimension requirements, excluding assessment of unknown proposed structures. Well, obviously, you don't have to show where things are going to go on the site necessarily, particularly if it's a couple hundred acre site, but all structures will obviously have to be built within the building setbacks, because that's what's required in the zone. And with that, that's my review of where we're at with the conditions in Andy's memorandum.
Has a third lot been added to this property since the original application for Fox Run?
Yes, Mr. Shea.
It would appear that all 3 of these lots have frontage. Is that not the case?
No, 2 do.
Lot 2 does not.
Lot 2 doesn't front on Hammond Street?
No, we're creating frontage for Lot 2. That's the frontage being created by the new 370-foot way.
Is there earth removal going on process on this property at all?
Not local to this site, and to my knowledge, none.
I seem to remember some sort of discussion in regards to that.
How does lot 2 not?
And what are we doing with the paper road?
I thought the opportunity for me to remark on it, I think to reiterate what Mr. Bott said, there's really nothing that Makepeace could do, the landowner, really in any, short of obtaining a release from any interested party, but certainly nothing they could do within the definitive subdivision approval process or under subdivision control to eliminate rights that folks may have in a paper road. So I think the short answer is this project, in my view, doesn't affect the paper road, and nor do we have the ability to alter it as within the subdivision control process. And again, that condition number 6, recommended condition, I think, as Mr. Bott pointed out, it's a little bit funky, when it references public access. I mean, my view, I know I said we're okay with all of these, and at a high level we are, and my view would be that, the board may wish to consider deleting that condition, because I just don't think it, maybe Fuss and O'Neill disagrees, but I don't think it really fits or makes sense in light of this project.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I can weigh in on that item. Andy Glines, Fuss and O'Neill, site civil engineer and engineering consultant for the town. I guess specifically regarding item 6, I've spoken to the town planner, Mr. Bott, regarding that, and agree with his assessment and comments regarding basically, that's a remnant of a previous comment that we had when the subdivision was located further south, closer to where that existing cart path was. And I know there was previous discussions about whether or not access to that would be still available now that the applicant has taken Fuss and O'Neill's recommendation to move the subdivision road north, which also reduced their amount of earthwork and cut that would be required for the proposed road. It also moves it, the proposed cul-de-sac outside the footprint of that existing cart path. So really, it may be something that the town would want to look at when reviewing individual applications for the lots if this definitive plan was approved, but I don't think it's an applicable condition at the moment for the definitive plan.
So the cul-de-sac was moved again
So it was previously located,
to the north.
it was located, I guess, the way, actually, that's a good view.
It was like right next to that cart path, right? Is that the?
Yeah,
Is that the
so-
one that we did the site walk
Yes.
on?
Yeah, so there was an existing hill at that location, and then we recommended moving the cart path, or the proposed cul-de-sac rather, away from that, so it wouldn't require as much cut to construct the proposed roadway.
Now, when I look at sheet PL3, is it not saying there's Henry Street is a publicly maintained road and there's 600 feet of frontage on there?
Is that
If
directed,
somebody could
is
answer
that
the
directed to us or to Andy Glines?
It could be to either. I mean, if Andy can
I mean,
answer it, great, but
Yeah, my understanding is that although the town may maintain that street, it's not a public way.
that's something I
So-
would like to have checked on.
And I believe sheet PL2 would be the appropriate plan to show
Right,
that.
PL2, right. It's showing. So is lot one coming around that corner? Sheet PL2, and for all intents and purposes, blocking lot two from having frontage on Federal Road? Is that what it appears to be? Is there?
If I may, there is no frontage for lot two in the absence of a subdivision. So,
I'm asking if lot one is cutting, is for all intents and purposes, the separation point for lot two from having frontage on Federal Road. Is that little tiny triangle up there, which appears, I can't, 500 feet by 600 feet triangle?
I see what you're saying.
Is that what the issue is with not having frontage on Federal Road? Is that,
On,
This.
oh,
because
Well-
it appears that lot one,
So if I may, Mr. Chair, I'm not 100% sure what the question is, just because we're all looking at different sets of or different plans, but,
I'm on page lotting plan PL2,
okay.
and I'm looking along the line of Federal Road where lot two and lot one intersect, and it appears that,
So if you look at the screen right above Andy, that middle section is an out parcel. That is what's known as the Hammond Street Solar Project. So that is a separate
this
parcel.
right here looks like it belongs to lot one that comes up and over, and for all intents and purposes, it appears to be specifically blocking lot two from having frontage on that particular road.
So I don't think I can reach as high as you can, but this piece here is a completely separately owned lot. So this is an out parcel. So lot one and lot two don't touch because this parcel is separate. That is the solar project. I know it's hard to see.
All right, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
That is my question.
Okay.
Does AD Makepeace own that property?
Yes. I don't know what the current status of the solar development, whether it's a leased solar development or it was purchased, I don't know, but it's a separate parcel in its entirety.
I also don't see that any of the wetland setbacks or the wetland delineations are on this.
I don't believe that that's a requirement for this definitive plan, that the delineations be shown on the plan set. We did provide the ORAD where the Conservation Commission has approved the wetland line in this vicinity.
But you didn't feel that it needed to be included in the plan set? You already had a copy of it, but you didn't feel it was necessary to give us the necessary information to make an informed decision?
No, Mr. Chairman, the decision has already been made on the wetland line by a different commission.
It's part of our site plan review process, though.
Well, respectfully, that is a process that is referred to, and we went through that process with the Conservation Commission to define that line and provided the permit that was issued by that board. And I believe that was one of the recommended items in the Fuss and O'Neill final memo as well.
Yeah, I mean, put differently, we don't disagree that wetlands do need to be determined, which they were, but it's not a requirement of your subdivision regs that they be marked on the definitive subdivision plan. There's only so much detail you can get on one of these plans.
Well, I see on PL3 you've included some small portion of it, but you felt it wasn't necessary to include it in the other plans.
Yes, there are some wetland lines shown in the vicinity of Wareham Street, you're correct.
Now, a question too, you're calling this an outlier land, the solar project in the middle between lots 1 and 2, is that correct?
Yes,
Where's the frontage for that?
I'm not sure, I would have to look into that.
Because that would require 150 foot frontage to also, and it appears that either you're gonna take it off of lot 1, or it's on Hammond Street, so I think that needs to be straightened out.
Yeah, I mean, we would have to look back at that, I think, to see how that was permitted and approved a few years back.
Right, I mean, the delineation of that lot is not at issue tonight, though,
Well,
nor has it been the last
Maybe.
2 times we appeared before this commission.
Well, this is the first time that it's been brought up that was a
and
separate.
previously you applied for 2 lots, which was a different configuration from what we're looking at now. So there's gonna be more questions in regards to this.
Additionally, if I may, looking at the layout, it seems to me that a tweak on the line for between lot 1 and lot 2 would negate the need for the roadway. Because there's plenty of frontage along lot 1, decent frontage on lot 3, and there's plenty of room in between. If there's the concern that there's no frontage for lot 2 to the other side where Hammond is.
And are we all of a sudden gonna be creating a non-conforming lot with this, because, again, your solar field requires frontage, which either it has or not, and I think we need to get that clarified. I would also like to, whether or not if the frontage is on Hammond Road, Hammond Street, because if so, and it was accepted by a board prior, that Hammond Street was allowable frontage, then it should be allowable frontage for lot 2 also. So I think those are some questions we need to get answered on this.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Please.
So Massachusetts general law gives the applicant the ability to subdivide their land. If they wish to subdivide their land, then they're allowed to. If they've got frontage on a way, which they have on Federal Road out here, they're allowed to divide their property. They can reconfigure it as well, but under the laws of the Commonwealth, if an applicant has frontage on 5 lots on a road, they can still go in and put a subdivision plan in to create additional frontage. That's what Massachusetts General Law Chapter 41 is all about. And the law basically says the planning board shall approve a plan that meets the requirements of their regulations. So I think what we've heard from Fuss and O'Neill is that their application meets the requirements of our regulations. It's properly before the board, and whether they could achieve the frontage with what they've got without a subdivision plan. The law gives them the right to do that, and that's what they're doing, as I understand it.
Right, but then I would request that they back it up with why. I have that opinion and right to ask, why aren't we doing an A&R if all lots have appropriate frontage? Is this going to make their solar farm non-conforming because it doesn't have frontage? And it just seems like this could have been done better, to me, and that's why I'm asking questions. Is Hammond Street a town street? Does this plan that's being proposed, does that still allow for frontage, or is there a non-conforming lot in the center of this? Are we creating a larger issue by approving this than we are if we denied it? Originally, when this came forward, it was for 2 separate lots, and it's changed, and now the questions have changed and have to be asked.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're happy to continue answering questions, and that's certainly the board's right. I do believe I mentioned the solar project in our very first opening hearing, because I think it was actually Mr. Dion who asked why that was shaped so oddly. So the original lots did also cut through this area. There have been some modifications, I think, really just working with the town, working with Fuss and O'Neill to modify this to improve it and reduce the amount of site work at the subdivision was the goal, and make it make sense. So our professional engineer and professional land surveyor have stamped this plan so that, their certification denotes that it is in compliance and not necessarily creating a non-conforming situation by subdividing this parcel. I don't know, Andy, if you have anything else to add to that.
I've just been trying to pull up our old records of the previously approved subdivision. I guess something I want to take a closer look at on what the determination was on Hammond Street before discussing it at the hearing, but it's certainly something that Fuss and O'Neill can look into if the board would like us to.
The board would appreciate that.
Mr. Chair?
Hmm?
May I?
Oh, please.
How far is the cul-de-sac moved from the last time we looked at this? You said you moved it, right?
Yes, based on Fuss and O'Neill's
Right,
recommendation.
so how far away from that private road or car path is
Yeah.
that now?
It's approximately 70 feet north from where it was originally.
30 feet north previous. And this is the third time we've moved the cul-de-sac, right?
Well, we proposed it closer to the cart path initially, because it was Fox Run. There was a subdivision on this land at one point in history. And so in our presentation to the board, we followed suit with the preliminary plan, which was in the location closer to the cart path. After Fuss and O'Neill did their preliminary review on the definitive plan, they suggested moving it back to where Fox Run, formerly known as Fox Run, was originally located, primarily because of site work, reduction, et cetera, things that Andy has already spoken about. So following that recommendation, that's why it was moved from where it was placed in our first discussion. Does that make sense?
Do you think it's worth going back out there, take a look since it got moved again?
I would. I'd like to see where the lot lines are. I believe at some point Andy had requested marking off the areas meant to be cleared.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that was a recommended condition of approval prior to actually clearing any of the property to construct the road.
So another site walk would,
And this land has extensive wetlands, so it appears that you already have the ability and the knowledge of where the wetlands are, as there's on some of the maps. I would like them more clearly defined to give us a better idea. There appears to be extensive wetlands on this property, and I would think that that's some information in regards to making a decision that needs to be considered by the board.
So may I, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
I mean, respectfully, we hear the concerns and feedback of the board, but, the applicant's entitled to configure the subdivision as it sees fit, so long as it complies with the rules and regulations, of the Carver subdivision regs. And it does. I mean, I think you've got the opinion from your civil engineer, your outside consultant. We've been through 2 rounds of comments with him. We've moved and adjusted things per recommendations of this board and the consultant. We've got a compliant plan. I mean, you really, respectfully, your discretion to approve or not approve the plan is really limited. I mean, if we comply, it's a good plan. That's state law.
Well, Mr. D'Ambrosio, I believe when you put when you brought forward the preliminary subdivision plans in regards to this, we did request that the wetlands be outlined because of the extensive nature of the wetlands on this property. Also, this has changed considerably several times in the process.
But I think you're still failing to cite a conflict or shortcoming vis-à-vis the regs. I mean, again, this is not purely a subjective determination by the planning board.
Well, no, it's not. And what I'm requesting is that you tell us how putting in a subdivision road is less impactful than separating this out by A&R. I mean, it's gonna create an impact on the environment in that area, and I'm curious to find out.
That's not a metric under your subdivision regs. It's just not.
Well, it does require that we limit the amount of, and I go back through it, the changes in topography of the land, and as was previously mentioned in the preliminary subdivision plan, it was requested that you defend how this is less invasive than going through an A&R and putting in 2 separate driveways in regards to the preliminary plan. So what has changed in regards to this? You've added another lot. You're going back and forth on this. It shows you that you're having some difficulty in deciding what you want to do with this property.
I disagree with that characterization. We're responding to feedback from the board. All the changes were made pursuant to feedback that this board and your peer consultant has given us. We're not whimsically changing the plan. We would have been satisfied with the first one. We changed it to reduce the impact to grading and clearing, to move it away from the cart path, to minimize the impact on the land, to add a 3rd lot because you didn't like the 2-lot approach. So we've responded to all of the feedback. This hasn't been, some ad hoc process where Makepeace has changed its mind 6 times.
When you say original, are you talking about the original approved plan, or are you talking about the preliminary subdivision plan?
Could I clarify?
It seems to be going back and forth
So-
between the two.
So this definitive process has been going on since April. So that's all we've been talking about as this current group. So this has all been the same plan. And I agree with Rob that the changes that have been made have been in response to discussions with Fuss and O'Neill predominantly. I also just wanted to point out, Connie, on PL5, which shows the cul-de-sac with the lots as well as the topography, the wetland lines are shown on that sheet. So pardon my earlier note about it not being shown. It is actually shown in conjunction with the existing topography too. So I just wanted to point that out too.
And all these plan sets are back to almost the original approved subdivision road.
Yes, you can actually see it beneath the proposed cul-de-sac. It's slightly shaped. It's differently shaped, just slightly based on what I would guess to be former regulations. On some of the sheets, you can see it beneath it. So it's in the same location as it was when it was denoted Fox Run or Fox something Run. Yeah. Oh yeah. So the page up on the screen shows the former subdivision layout.
Any further questions from the board?
So we still have, so Mr. Glines said they're going to still need to investigate the existence of Hammond and whether it's a public way, whether it was used as frontage for the solar field as well. Just as a reminder.
Yes.
So
because-
I'll
There's
have
still,
to,
there's still other questions that have to be cleared up.
so I'll have to talk with Mr. Bott about, I guess, how Fuss and O'Neill can comment on that former project that was approved and the frontage on that, in regards to this individual application, but
Right, that's
it's certainly
fine.
something I can clarify for the
No,
board, but I don't know if I can comment.
I think you need to stick to what's currently being proposed. I mean, it's changed a couple of times, and we just have to deal with what's in front of us, but, I am curious to find out in regards to the solar field and the frontage, and is it a non-conforming lot? Because we're now being claimed that, Hammond Street is or is not public. And I think that we need to clarify that, and
Yeah, I mean, I'd fail to see the relevance there. You know, we're entitled, I think Mr. Bott made the point, you know, we could have, 6,000 feet of frontage on a public way. We could still file under subdivision control under the state statute and create 20 lots, 30 lots. We could put a 1,000-foot road in here. I mean, as long as we meet the regs and state law, we can configure the lot as the applicant sees fit in its discretion. You know, this is not a
right, but now-
popularity contest here.
Is the solar project gonna be landlocked? Is that something that you're willing to make sure it has appropriate frontage on a public way?
I mean, that's at our risk. If we render something non-conforming, we've got a big issue there. And again, that's, we've got a top engineering firm here that's of the opinion that that's not an issue. We wouldn't have configured it this way if it were, so.
And so your engineering firm is what, saying that Hammond Street is a publicly accepted way and therefore provides the frontage for the lot that's necessary?
I'm not going to speculate as to what a registered professional engineer in the Commonwealth thinks about a lot that's not at issue tonight. What I'm going to tell you is we're presenting a plan that complies with your regs.
I have a question. So if it complies with the regulations, there's really nothing we can do, right?
Well, a certain amount of deference is given, yes, but if it fits within the regs, then we should, look upon it favorably.
If I may, as I mentioned before, Massachusetts general law says, and it's not ambiguous, the planning board shall approve a definitive plan within 135 days of its submittal. And that's what the law is. So it's not discretionary for the board. The law says the board shall approve a plan if it complies with the regulations. The only thing I've asked for waivers for here are on the scale of a plan and the datum that's being used here, which are sort of technical issues. Everything else meets muster with the bylaw in creating a roadway. And by the way, I don't want to correct the attorney, but you can't put a 1,000-foot road in because that's too long. You can put a 500-foot long road in. But they can create a subdivision. They can create that roadway. They've created it where it was at previously, based on minimizing impact to the area. You've got lot 1, lot 2, lot 3, and that cul-de-sac, and that is the scope of the board's, review at this point. If the applicant shoots himself in the foot on another parcel that's off the plan, well, that's their issue, and they'll have to fix that.
Agreed. Now, I also seem to recall requesting location of potential septic systems to be marked on these maps also.
I believe they are, Mr. Chair. Scroll through.
Yeah, we did supply that.
Yeah, they're on one of the design sheets, which I am scrolling through.
We need a bigger screen.
I know.
Do you have a sheet number for that, Sarah, by any chance?
I'm scrolling, I'm sorry.
That's all right, I'm doing the
Look at the
same.
first sheet will have a schedule, right? Go up to the top of the first.
I think it's this one. I just don't like using this in my mouse. Can I get a paper copy?
I don't want a paper copy.
I see infiltration area,
Staging area.
underground electric telecom.
Huh? I know, good old
Look
paper.
at the C5 note one.
Just gonna look at the letter.
Site details.
See, I don't think that they're actually.
I thought that they had added them.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't located the homes yet or structures, so it's premature to locate the septic system.
That's required is potential septic system should be included on there.
I do remember talking about that. I would have bet money that they were added to the plan, although I'm having trouble finding it.
Yeah, I recall that was discussed in one of our reviews. I'm trying to
Yeah,
see what the response was from previous comments.
I know that Matt had talked about it with you too, and we talked about it at the hearing.
Tom, real quick, the MGL that you were referring to, could you give me that code, please?
Massachusetts General Chapter 41, I'll have to go back in and get you the section, but,
Section 81-L.
thank you.
81 or 881?
81-L.
81-L.
And there's currently other structures on the property, but you felt that it wasn't an issue with the paper road?
I don't think there's
I'm
any
not-
structures on the
I'm
property.
not aware of any structures out there. Possibly pump house next to one of the bogs, but I
But that.
don't know where that would be, or nowhere near this area.
Yeah, to point out, the lot areas are 81 acres, 50 plus or minus acres, and 252 plus or minus acres. So there's a lot of dirt to deal with out there. And obviously, you can't put a septic system in except for where the soil is permitted. And those are things that come along with the Board of Health approving the septic areas. Given the materials that are typically in Carver, that Carver Sandy Loam has its own name after it, it'd be pretty unusual not to have a site on a 81 or 50 or 252 acre site you couldn't locate a septic system.
Yeah, I don't see them.
That's okay.
My apologies.
That's all right, 'cause, I see buildings notated on section PL5 at the end of the paper road. Are those,
I'm going back to the paper.
Yeah. Too much scrolling.
So where's that, Connie?
section PL5,
Yep.
if you follow the paper road next to the, subdivision road, up
Mm,
to
Yeah.
zone A.
yeah, I would guess those are pump houses related to the bogs.
houses.
Yeah, given the size of them.
So I'm just gonna, if I may, I'm just gonna read from your regs here. The section 4.2.2, required information, subsection 18. The plan shall show the locations of existing septic systems and, if known, proposed septic systems. You know, we haven't located them yet.
Yep, that's fine.
So can you answer me a question?
Hold the mic closer, please, Mr. Dion.
Yeah, so I would say, what is it, lot 2,
Mr. Dion, can you,
I'm sorry, on lot 2 there, if I remember, you broke this up to 2 parcels, and you had 1 parcel out there, and the access was from the back.
No,
All the access is off the 370-foot,
I might have it confused with another one, I'm just trying to,
yeah,
it
absolutely.
almost looks the same thing.
We'll do our
Um,
best to try to answer
and
any questions.
I'm just trying to verify it, and the reason I say that is, oh God, where was it? I was just looking at it, I'm sorry.
take your time. Here, this is the cul-de-sac here.
Yep, yeah.
There's a road, there's a pond over there, and there's a road there, isn't there?
Uh,
It
Which,
says
what sheet are you looking at?
Cranberry Bog. It's just a bog road then?
I'm not, which,
So I'm on PL5,
okay.
and I'm up there where the pond is. And it says approximately flood zone line, and then, isn't that a road that goes through there? Or is that just the bog roads?
Well,
Because I thought when you were doing this, you were gonna have 2 lots, and I mentioned about the back lot, and you said you had access to it from the backside. If I'm not mistaken.
So I don't think we've got any paved roads within the,
Because my concern was it was gonna be a lot to lot, and he said, no, you could access it through the back. So basically, what my question would come down to is then why do you need a cul-de-sac? Because you're not gonna have anything landlocked. And you could just do the 2 parcels.
I don't recall talking about that, to be perfectly honest. As far as,
But like I said, it could be a different one.
Yeah,
They like Mr. Watt said, they all look the same. It just does look so familiar with that cutout in the back there, that's all I'm getting at.
yeah, my knowledge of the site is that this is predominantly cranberry bogs with upland woods surrounding them, and there is a network of gravel bog roads
Okay.
surrounding them.
I'd like to,
Mr. Glenn, where we at with you?
I think as Mr. Bott, as well as the applicant mentioned, strictly going by the bylaws, Fussin O'Neill doesn't have any open comments at the moment. I guess regarding the question about the other project and Hammond Street, at least according to Mass Map or GIS, there is a right-of-way for that section of Hammond Street. So that appears to be public road, but I would want to confirm with the operation and maintenance Director, or Deputy Director John Woods to confirm is usually who I refer to for these matters.
Would that change any of your recommendations in regards to the project?
Not this evening, no.
Okay. All right. Any more questions, Mr. Gatsky?
No, I'm good for right now.
The board will, unless there's any further information that the board requests, then the board will accept the motion in regards to this definitive subdivision plan.
I will make that said motion
To
to accept,
approve.
approve.
And I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Ardillo, seconded by Mr. Robinson. Any further discussion among the board? Mr. Dion,
Mr. Dion says nay.
Mr. Gatsky,
I don't know. I'm having a really hard time with it. Come back to me.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Mr. Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.
That's the majority needed to approve the subdivision.
John Gasky says nay. Sorry.
All right, there you have it.
Don't like it.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bad things are coming.
Next public hearing is Bridgestone Development, which has been continued to September 27th at 7 p.m. Next item on the agenda is on the application of Prolio Concrete Forms, Inc. This is a public hearing on the application of Prolio Concrete Forms, Inc., requesting a site plan review pursuant to sections 2230 and 3100 of the Carver zoning bylaw for property located at 0 Forest Street in Carver, Mass. Assessors map 49, lot 62-7-R in the general business zoning district. Applicant proposes the construction of a single commercial building, associated utilities, stormwater control, parking lots, and access drives. The building will be used as a craftsman tradesman building. If you could put them over there, that'd be-
I'll request an electronic copy through Mr. Bott.
and those are revised from,
Well, mine is, I guess, the morning.
okay, all right. We haven't received a copy of these then?
I'm guessing not if they're all right there. These are dated. These are
Mr. Chairman,
revised.
would you like
August
me to hand
3rd.
these out, and then at least we'll be able to
At
flip
least
through
would
them
be
when...
great. You don't have to hand them out, just pass them right along and.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you could please introduce yourself?
Glenn Briol, applicant for 0 Forest Street.
And your address, please, Mr. Ferrero?
233 Pembroke Street, Kingston, Mass.
Thank you. What are we looking at on the revised plan? If you could give us a synopsis of what's been.
Basically, when we had our site walk, there was some issues with having the two entrances. So we reworked it to move the building back, shorten the building by 10 feet. So the pinch points weren't so bad on coming down the sides. Provided the landscape buffers, so we weren't asking for a waiver on that. And basically, we moved away from both sidelines, and then we have a driveway directly across. So it was the best place, sit with a single driveway, so. And then I could address this, how the comments came through, however you want it that way. We actually did those. We got him yesterday morning, he pretty much got everything that we talked about.
If I may, Mr. Chair. As the applicant mentioned, well, Andy Glines, Fuss & O'Neill, as the applicant mentioned, we just issued our latest comment memo on September 12th. We haven't done a back check of the reviewed plans. If the applicant would like to go through them this evening, I can back check them here. There wasn't all that much, but it would be more thorough if we could actually issue a formal, final response. But I don't know if the applicant.
I would rather go through them now, because they were pretty, it was minimal what you were asking for, and we pretty much addressed everything that was there. So if you can, I mean, I'm fine with it.
So, I mean, I'd be,
I myself would prefer a formal answer, but I want to hear from, I want to give the applicant the chance tonight too, so.
yeah, I guess if there's anything else you want to add on what you've changed, then that'll give me a chance to run through some of these, and I can point out if there's anything that is still outstanding.
Yeah, basically on your review, there were lighting questions and some buffer questions. The engineering question, and I apologize, I have to do this again. I had told my engineer I thought the meeting was the 8th, so he was double booked tonight, so I got this one. So basically lighting, we tried to keep it towards the building in the middle of the parking lot, facing away from the only residential abutter out back. And it's through, it's probably 150 feet away from the back building. The lights on the building itself will be just on motion sensor, so they don't have to be on all night. You've got the building itself, we reduced the size, changed the gables, made it just a little, conforms to the lot a little better, so we can make it work with the moving it back. We had to move it back to get around the building, to get down both sides coming in from one entrance. Besides that, the one comment I seen was Board of Health. We designed it off the perk test, so we're done on the lot. I mean, the soils meet, the system is in the plans, it's designed. I don't know if you got a comment back from Kevin when it was circulated or not, but it meets everything, yeah, so.
Yeah, and we defer to Kevin and the Board of Health regarding those approvals, so.
Yeah, no, it asked in this letter for it, so I'm assuming it went to him during this process and he would've got back to you guys.
Regarding clearing for the lot, I understand it's entirely wooded currently.
Entirely would,
The intent is to clear the existing lot
Clear the exi-
entirely,
to the back 50-foot buffer, yes.
and then you'll have proposed landscape buffers, which that included a 50-foot buffer
On the back side of the property, button the residential, which will stay wooded, and the septic was just perked right in the middle of that, so it won't be touching much in there. The septic was staked out when we did the walkthrough back there. when they perked it, there's a small opening right there. We can fit the field in and everything else is full with the pump chambers and everything. So all the wood's behind it stays and everything around it.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
When we did our site walk, I noticed, and I've gone by there several times, where the flags are, there's some telephone poles. Do those have to be moved at all?
Well, no, originally we wanted the two entrances to drive around the building, but we've changed it now to a central driveway, so it doesn't affect any of the telephone pole locations. Yep.
It looks like the septic is going to be in the 50-foot buffer.
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Making the building smaller so that you can take care of the areas that are pinched. And the fire department, are they okay with that?
Yes, so their,
No?
their comments were one-way traffic, which we addressed on the new plan, so we'll have one-way traffic around the building, in and out. I believe Jesse sent a letter on the,
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now, and I'm just wondering if they were aware that you made the building smaller.
Is the building smaller?
yeah, the building's 10 foot smaller, and they were aware because the first building, they were favorable because they would rather see two entrances. So they had to review it again, and they came back with the one-way traffic where there was only one entrance.
Weren't they favorable of one-way traffic?
Yeah, that's on the second one. They were favorable on the first one. They said that was the best scenario because you're in and out, you're not coming out one road, yeah?
Right.
So they were favorable on the first one too.
Why are you coming in and going left and we're driving right inside?
I don't know, they drew the arrows, I'm just gonna follow them.
That's a tendency to go, come in, go right, wrong, the other
Yeah,
way.
I don't know, they have computer screens that they map out trucks and everything, what'll fit around a corner, and, you know, they just,
They make it one
What
way,
are-
it's go that way.
yeah.
Do you currently decide screening requirements in regards to this? But it's hard to identify because you get what's listed as a gravel parking lot in back.
Are you looking at the new plan? He did screen in down both sides. I mean, down the side and the back, I'm sorry.
Depth of the screening.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I can weigh in on that. One of the comments that we made was, I guess that you were conforming to the general parking lot buffer requirements.
Yep.
But there is a section that requires additional buffer when you have more than 10 spaces. And at the time, and it appears to still be the case, we can't determine how many parking spaces are proposed in the gravel parking lot.
Okay,
So I think either way, you'd need to request a waiver for the parking lot buffers just because there'd be more than 10 spaces. And under section 3242, it's, if I remember correctly, 1 additional foot of buffer per parking space over 10, which I'm assuming that's not something that you'd be proposing based on your current layout.
right, and he's showing a parking area in the back and just loading docks on there. I mean, if 10 spaces meet the amount of spaces we need for this building, we can delete the ones in the back rather than going with a
Well,
bigger buffer.
I guess if you could clarify what you'd be using that gravel parking lot. I see it's called out for snow storage as well. I guess, can you describe what the uses would be? Do you have an idea of that at the moment, or?
I mean, this is gonna be rental space, and it's hard for me to determine what's gonna come in there afterwards, you know, but I mean, the space in the back is just that's what, the lot configuration, we're just gonna open it up so that we, you know, we're gonna go in there once, you know. The back bays, like I say, have, you know, that's where your garage doors are. I don't, as for these parking spots he drew in the back, I mean, if 10 meets the requirements for that square footage, I mean, everybody could park go front.
So, I have a question for you. So your septic system's gonna go back in the vegetated buffer zone. So by putting that back there, you're not gonna be able to grow anything on top of that, correct?
Well, you can't grow trees, it'll just be grassed, and, you know, that's where it was perked, you know, so these lots were originally perked in that back corner.
And then you actually do have houses right behind you, correct?
Yes, that one,
So that
they planted another row of abrevieties. I have no problem fencing that back lot too. I mean, it's way back
well,
from the building.
It's, 50-foot of vegetation, not, shrubs or anything. And my other question is, on EX1-1, this is the first time I'm seeing it, there's a car path at the end, the one that goes through the gravel area. You know what those are? It says paths on them.
Oh, no, there's just paths in the woods there. I think they were just pointing out the paths. I don't think they're cut paths, yeah.
You looking at page 1? I think,
Yeah,
I think that's,
just
the way
people
it's,
using the land without permission.
yeah, the way it's set up right now, because you got the lot next to it being developed right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right,
That's probably, I imagine it's probably,
okay.
Yeah, he's just marking out a path that was through the woods. I mean, it's just,
But my concern is just the 50-foot buffer, taking all the trees out of there to put the septic in when you can actually shorten your gravel lot up and put it in there and leave that 50-foot alone. Only because you do have residential back there. And
Yeah,
the
but-
bigger the
buffer, yeah.
coverage, the better it is.
But they're not there now, so it was perked there, and there's, it's where it was marked out. So the trees aren't there, we're not gonna, you're not gonna put big trees back there. I mean, we can do a screen, I have no problem with doing a fence in the back. The lot's elevated, so by the time we're going downhill, so, I mean, that yard should have plenty of privacy. And I mean, I would be fencing in the backside of the yard anyway, so we could do a stockade or something back there that gave them more privacy, and, like I say, he is planting another row. He'll do green giants or something that'll grow in pretty quick, in between all those trees that are still back there.
The applicant's proposing what appears to be about keeping 20 feet of the existing vegetated buffer along that edge, then lawn over the proposed septic system, and then proposed evergreen plant material closer to the edge of the gravel parking lot. But I'd recommend taking the applicant up on his offer to put in a solid fence on the west side of the septic system. That would be the crest of the hill and be the most efficient way to provide solid year-round screening from the neighboring residential properties to this lot. And I think based on the other abutting uses to the north and south, that would really only be required on the west side of the lot.
So, from the neighborhood that's there or the houses, are they able to see?
Well, if we put a fence up there, the elevation of this lot, they're not even gonna be seeing down into it, you know what I mean? It's, cause it goes uphill. And I don't know what the elevation difference is. I think it's 8-10 feet from the front to the back. I'm not 100% sure, it might be more than that.
Were you planning on 18-wheelers?
Yeah, I can't say that. I would imagine, everything gets delivered in 18-wheelers now, you know what I mean? So I'm sure there'll be deliveries with tractor trailers.
Because we get, yeah. Like
And
to see traffic.
Did they do, I'm sorry, did
No,
they
no.
do a traffic study in that area?
No, they didn't, but with, contractor space isn't gonna really impact the traffic, I mean, because it's not like constant, it's not like a retail space where people are coming and going all day long, you're going. I think they just went off the data that was provided, by the state.
Yeah, so the applicant provided some trip generation for the proposed use, and I believe it was 50 trips for the total day. So they came to the conclusion, and Fuss O'Neill agrees, it would be minimal, if not negligible, impact on the adjacent road and traffic there.
And can we get a turn study for the largest vehicle you plan on bringing in here?
I believe he
Look at
gave,
LTC 1.1. One of the, is that supposed to be for emergency vehicle? Route,
I see what you're saying.
because the concern that I have is that the path of that cuts right through a couple of parking spots.
I was concerned on the blind corner at the top of the road. And, that you're asking for more parking spaces in front of the building than we can allow.
we can take off the end 2 parking spots that those are cutting into, and, I mean,
And, I will need, we're gonna have to continue because I will need a formal, I need to know what you're asking for and waivers as far as sides,
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
side screening, front screening, and, I'll need Andy to go through this and give us more.
I don't believe we asked for waivers on the screening, did we?
So that was the question about the parking, and I guess if you reduce the parking in front of the building to 8, you won't need a waiver for that.
They will still
But you'll
need a
have the
waiver.
Parking,
They will need a waiver,
oh, because
because it's prohibited from in front of the building.
at all,
Right.
correct.
So we'll need the waiver for in front of the building, but we won't need the waiver for additional screening.
No, you'll need a waiver for parking in front of the building, and we're only supposed to give up to 8.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm saying if we do 8 in front of the building,
You'll still be requesting a waiver.
no, I know for the
Okay.
parking, but we were talking about the screening. We're not
It would be a
requesting.
waiver for the screening on the rear or west side of the lot, because my understanding is that the gravel parking area would provide more spots than the 10. So, I mean, I don't know what the board's opinion is on that. They're not.
Well, I was hoping you could
designated
quantify what the gravel parking area actually meant in
I
that
think-
terms.
Fuss and O'Neill will recommend approval of the waiver. I just need to know what the actual number
Right.
of spots
Well, I mean, I don't.
could be, so.
I don't really think we're calling it parking, it's more yard, for whoever does, I mean, if they park, they're parking in their offices and they're going in their garages and, I mean.
Yeah,
So-
and I think providing a solid fence to screen that yard
Yep.
will be a valid technical justification on reducing the width of that buffer. But
The 50-foot or,
not the 50-foot, I guess it would be the side yards on the north and south side. That would be,
of the gravel area you're talking about, though?
so the applicant's proposing a 10-foot wide landscape buffer on the north and south currently, and then a 50-foot on the west, which meets the requirements for a 10-space parking lot.
Right.
So then they'd need a waiver for
Wouldn't-
additional spaces beyond that. So
Okay, but,
it's,
I mean, I know it'll be, like I said, you'd say you'd probably approve it anyway, but it'd be like 2 10-foot, they're separated by a building, right? So wouldn't it be 2 10-foot spots?
yeah, so I guess
10-foot
in my
parking lots?
memo, I did mention that I recommended looking at the parking lot in the front of the building and the parking lot in the rear of the building as 2 separate lots in regards to determining
Right.
what the
Yep.
required landscape buffer would be, because they function as independent parking lots, even though they're on the same lot. But still, the rear parking lot feasibly could have more than 10 spaces. So I would just recommend that the applicant get a waiver for that,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
to have that covered, as, understanding that you don't know exactly what's going to be used there,
Right,
and one of the future tenants may want to park more than 10 vehicles
right.
in the back.
So, but are we asking for a waiver for a specific amount of parking back there, or are we, because it's,
I'll work with the town planner,
Okay.
to coordinate with you and
okay.
make a determination on that so I can make a formal recommendation to the board.
Yeah, and I mean, like I say, the sideline buffer, if we meet without, if we called it two separate parking lots, I'd just like to keep it at the 10 feet, I mean, because it is a button commercial on both sides, yeah.
Right.
It's like, I understand the back, and the 50 feet in the back, he might have drawn it as grass or whatever, and 20, but all we're gonna do is we're gonna go in there and we're gonna put the field in the spot that's already cleared, and we'll leave all that tree and everything there and put another row of stuff right across, so.
And last would be the ability to screen the parking lot from the street, the front parking from the street with reduced setbacks on the front of the building.
He seemed to provide a pretty good buffer in the front on the, for the landscape buffer.
I'd have to check. I usually rely on Andy for that. I thought it was,
If if we're in agreement that the front lot is, it's separate lot, then, the applicant should be meeting those buffer requirements, but I'll double check. And I agree with the recommendation to remove 2 spots, on the corners, and I
That's
would,
fine. Well, and then we'll meet the, you can't go more than 8 anyway, so then we'll meet what we won't be asking for a waiver for more spots out there.
and I would, recommend that you check with your engineer, to see if the one-way traffic pattern can be reversed. As Mr. Williams mentioned, I don't, it appears to be feasible based on the turning. movements
Can I ask why on that? Just myself?
Normal, you drive in someplace. you
I
don't take-
understand that. Well, but I mean, if I'm coming in off of 58 with a truck and I'm coming in on that angle, I want to go that way and out, so. I drive trucks, so I mean,
Yeah,
I drive tractor trailers. When we're talking about that, that's one thing. I just look at it a little different. We'd be coming in
You
from
got
58.
50-50 chance, because you're coming the other way, you gotta go.
I'll never be coming the other way with a truck,
and,
so.
Yeah.
right, we have also prohibited 18-wheelers from the property next door, so that might be in the,
I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, because how can you prohibit a truck from coming in that fits on the lot? I
well,
mean, I don't know.
there's safety issues with the blind corner and the intersection, and I'd have to see the full study from,
Isn't the intersection, the stop sign at the top of the?
Well, you got a stop sign there, you got another stop sign up the street, and there, I mean, we walked it, and I mean, I don't see really a blind corner. And our driveway now is going directly across from the Quickie Mart, so
Somebody-
there's very clear access and sight line everywhere on that
Somebody
lot.
coming up from 58, you want them to turn left, they're not crossing the traffic. It's only
Right,
if you go into it from coming
Yeah.
down the hill, you're crossing the
Yeah,
other lane of traffic.
yeah, I mean, but any lot you put anywhere, you're crossing traffic, and I mean,
Well,
but sight line on that lot, especially, now you're in the middle of the thing, so you've pushed the driveway from the farthest point from both corners and stop signs that we were talking about when we were out there, So, I mean,
our concern would be the blind corner at the top of the hill and the ability of an 18-wheeler to turn into the property without crossing the yellow line, and that's a concern.
18 wheels and the school bus.
Andy,
School bus
I'm
crosses
sure,
at center line.
would be able to tell us that.
I'll certainly take a look at the turning movements that are provided, and,
I mean, I understand that, but I mean, driving truck, I mean, if you go take your test, you use the whole road depending on the size of your trailer. I know you say it's not safe, but that's how you drive truck. I mean, you have to cross sound, I can't take one of my trailers out of Plymouth Street and get onto 58 without using the other lane. I mean, that's a highway. I mean, I can understand what you're saying about that, but you can get into this site, and we're only gonna get in what we
and-
can. you
And
know?
it might not be an issue, but there's a blind corner at the top of the hill, and it certainly raises safety concerns along with the intersection at 58, which is a difficult intersection for navigation coming around that corner up the hill, which I've clearly seen myself with even just school buses. But I think Andy can give us a far better feel for it, or request a study at turning.
Yeah, I guess,
It might
I'd
not
certainly
be,
again do it. I don't know how much Fuss and O'Neill can comment on existing conditions
Right.
outside of.
no, right,
Yeah,
but
so, I guess I can certainly look at and comment on
ability
turning
to
movements
turn,
in and
right.
out of the site and
But
around the site.
it might not be an issue too, because of the way you have it set up with the south side of the building being the one-way in and the north side being the one-way out. But if you can't pull out of that without, in an 18-wheeler, without turning fully into the other lane, I think there's gonna be the issues.
Well, when you're coming out onto Forest Street, we'd be going to 58, so we'd be using the whole road then too, you know, so I mean, you can cut a truck out onto that, you know. So you'd be going to 58 way. Nobody's gonna come out with a tractor trailer and run back up that hill towards the other side, you know.
Thank you.
And we could, like I say, if it meant putting a sign saying, you know, left turn only, I mean, that's fine too. I mean, then when they're coming out of that road, they're turning now. Or I would like it to say tractor trailers, left turn only, in case somebody wanted to go up the street, you know. But if you'd wanted something like that, we could do that too.
I have another question.
Please.
And this might be silly, but I've noticed, because I have to go down that street a lot, that there's a lot of kids on bicycles. Whether they're going to Quickies to get candy, or I know people that go to work on their bikes down those streets. Is there some kind of flashing sign or something just to, I mean, maybe I'm way beaten off the path, but
Yeah,
I'm concerned about
I wouldn't say there'd be a flashing sign for something like that. I mean, there's kids and bicycles and mopeds in every neighborhood, on every road, you know. I mean, it's just the people who driving the trucks gotta be aware of them and be careful, you know.
Could you put a trucks entering ahead, a sign?
Yeah, if he's wanting something like that, I could understand, but honestly, we're not, just so you know, we're not talking about like having a trucking depot or something. I just don't wanna limit myself to having to argue with the town every time somebody comes to deliver with a 6-wheeler with a it's a tractor trailer, you know, I mean, it's not like I'm gonna bring a 51-ton low bed in there, it's not gonna go into that site, you know? It's mainly, you know, regular delivery trucks, or if we have landscape trailers or whatever, anything that would, you know, just be normal, you know, I'm not bringing a tractor up there with a low bed on it, because it's not going in there, so.
All right.
Okay.
All right, any further questions from the board? Then the chair will accept a motion to continue this to September 27th at 7 PM.
I'll make said motion.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Dion, seconded by Mr. Gatsky. Discussion? 2-1.
Mr. Dillon says aye.
Mr. Gatsky.
John Gasky says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I have these for you to sign, the A&Rs. Just, Michelle put a big note that said sign them and pass them along, so.
How many of
Well, there should be, there should be 5, so yours and Ellen's have, yours and Ellen's. Yep.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah. We'll just pile up as they go that way, and then they'll make our way around.
Back again, yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Bott, Planning Director, notes?
I don't think we're hearing volume.
No, he's,
Here we go.
Okay.
My giant hand sometimes gets in the way of things. So we recently had our annual stormwater review update with DPW and other folks, and we are likely going to be looking at some of the regulations if the planning board has both in zoning and in subdivision regulations as far as complying with the Massachusetts stormwater mandate. So that is part of the program previously, so we were looking at what those things are and whether we may need to make any modifications to our subdivision regulations or our zoning bylaws to be more in compliance with the stormwater regulation. So we will be peeling that back as well. That's the most direct planning board sort of issue. As you know, we have been having ongoing meetings, including in this room, regarding the solar and the battery energy storage moratorium. The board had asked me to contact Eversource about some of the interconnection concerns the board has had. So we've had that initial conversation with Eversource, and they have agreed to come and talk to both groups. So we will likely, in an October meeting, have the folks from Eversource come in and talk to us about the whole issue with solar and interconnection agreements, and get some clarification on why these things seem to be, shifting as we approve these. That is all I've got as far as director's notes.
On the Tremont Street solar project where we were looking at adding a new road, we set a condition for that they provide the application and the answer from Eversource. Have we ever gotten responses back on that?
They're still sort of pulling teeth with Eversource to get to that, but they're putting those things together for us as
Excellent.
well. We also met on site to look at the screening. The board had talked about the screening on both sides of the entranceway there. So the applicant is putting together sort of a screened area that will essentially be behind those two stone walls to provide some additional screening there and not impede site distances along the way.
Excellent. All right. Anything from the board? Well,
When is Eversource coming? Do we know?
Tom said he's arranging something in October, I believe.
October? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I did have one other thing as well.
Yep.
So we are having, let me go find them, open meeting law training sessions for boards and staff.
Oh, yes.
So those are tentatively scheduled for October.
October 25th and 23rd, maybe? Thank you, sir. There should be 5. 1, 2. Let me make sure. It's not mine that's missing.
Do you need an answer from us there, Mr. Vaughn?
No, only that there'll be 2 sessions, one at 3:30 and one at 5:30. So there'll be 2 sessions for the board to attend. It is sort of standard fare and a requirement to make sure the board understands those necessities. So I think I asked Michelle to forward that on to the board. I don't have it.
Yeah, there was an email.
I got an email on that.
Great. The staff is much better than the planner at following through a lot of these things.
I think they wanted to confirm who was coming. I believe on that.
Yeah, but you don't have to, because they have a 3 o'clock and a 5 o'clock, I believe they
3:30
scheduled.
to 5:30.
Okay.
Is that a Tuesday?
October 25th. I don't,
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday, October
Is it a
25th.
meeting night?
Let's
Good
see, the
question.
27th.
That is a planning board meeting day. So
Okay.
open meeting law training, 3:30 and 5:30 on October 25th.
And it's what, only an hour, is that correct?
That's correct.
So we could do that.
So we may as well
and
do,
come right over here.
may as well do the 5:30.
Yeah, I'll do the 5:30.
We gotta make sure that we
You
don't
don't
have
have
a
to-
solar bylaw meeting that night.
Yeah, we'll put in a clip on the solar meeting that night.
You don't have to lock in with Tom on the date tonight, but give him a call and let him know as
Yeah,
soon as
just-
possible.
Just reply back to Michelle, and so we'll have a list.
All right. Meeting minutes of July 26, 2022. I know that some typos have been coming through on those electronically. And I sent Michelle a letter in regards to this one, just to clarify it, because it seemed like it was out of order.
Is this the one that Michelle just sent out?
No, this was July 26th, but at the bottom, it had thrown off to the side, motion to approve, and then it didn't say what the motion was in regards to, and it seemed out of place at the bottom. So I just asked for her to check on that. But the board will accept a motion to approve with said edit. The minutes of July 26, 2022.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Gatsky, seconded by Mr. Dion. I just think electronically it's bumping something off, so I just asked her to check on that.
Maybe, it may be the not getting picked up on the microphone quite right.
All right, Mr. Dion?
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Helen Sodillo says
All
aye.
right. Approval of meeting minutes for August 9th, 2022. Again, the electronics is bumping some last sentence off to the side, and I asked her to straighten that out and move that to the appropriate spot. So the board will accept a motion to approve with said edit.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Gatsky, seconded by Ms. Sordillo. Any-
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Helen Sodillo says aye.
And I am going to recommend that the August 23rd of 2022 be continued to the next meeting. Because there was an edit, but I hadn't gotten a chance to respond to it.
I haven't gotten a chance to look at those yet.
I'll make that motion.
No, don't need a motion for it. Although I think if that covers everything, we have a couple things to sign. So the board chair will accept a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Dion, seconded by Mr. Gatsky. Discussion? Mr. Dion?
Mr. Dion says yeah.
Aye.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Ms. Robinson says aye.
Helen Sodillo says aye.
Thank you very much, and thank you Area 58 for their expertise this evening. Invaluable, and Andy Glines.